Oh, there's DJ.
Hello, how's it
Even,
going?
even sir, how's yourself?
I am. Well, I'm alright. Bit hungover today, to be honest. I'm alright. Like yourself.
Not too. I'm going great. Had a really good day today with Amachi. We went to the gymnasium, and then we come back and we had a nice dinner. And now I've done the stream. So yeah, I've had a good day.
Yes. Going to the gym and everything. We have bird. Like you got to keep her there. Like.
Yeah.
I wish I could say I had an eventful day like that. I woke up about maybe I don't know 11:30 in the morning, like alcohol poisoning or something. So I'm feeling a bit sorry for myself right now, admittedly. But onwards and upwards, but onwards and upwards. Like I made my first video today as well. So while you were at the gym and having a nice wee meal and that, I'm proud of myself for making my first video in about a month. Like, not a stream, an actual fucking video. So yeah. Sorry, go on.
Actually, that is good because I've been meaning to. Not even a video. I've been meaning to make an intro video for my stream for about 3 weeks now, and it's going to be all of about, I don't know, 40 seconds, and I know pretty much what I want to put into it, but I just haven't managed to get around it. So if you're making an actual video, it's going to be content. You've managed something there.
Oh, well, I thought you were leading up to a question here where you were going to ask me to make it for you, and I was going to have to go. I have no idea how to do it. To be fair, I've got the most idiot-proof recording software possible. I was using a free version for the longest time. It's as simplistic as it gets, and that's kind of the way I like it. It gets too complicated. That's just no. I do actually enjoy making like stuff like that. What you're on about, where you just put clips together with a bit of music in the background. It is quite therapeutic, but the way that I do it's too complicated. Like you'd have to get like Clive or something to do it for you. Well, unless you can.
I record my audio on GarageBand and then put pictures and audios over the top of it. And it's not overly complicated, but it is time consuming.
I can guarantee the way I do it's probably worse. Like, all I've got is a pause and a stop button. So, like, I have to go through every single clip. If it's like news segments, and then pause, resume. Then I have to stop that video. Then I'm still getting DMs from that BAME, by the way. Like, I know it's like some weirdo that's like trying to sell me Bitcoin or something, but it's funny. They've all got the same script. But anyway, I'll have to upload this video that's like it'll be like clips of like several different segments from Parliament. Upload it on unlisted. Then I have to re-record that video with music playing in the background just so I can put the two together. It's so time consuming. Like whereas other people can just edit, clip, etc., and fire on a bit of music at the same time, and it's done within 20 minutes. It takes me about 3 hours. 3 hours, like I should really have a PayPal style. Like the amount of effort I have to go through for a shit video is unbelievable.
Yeah,
but obviously I'm not going to like slag off Billy when we're joking about, but he is probably like the only person I will say this much that says this in my comment section, apart from people that come into my comments to spurg about the SNP because they're obviously SNP fanboys. I am not anti-English. I've got English family. Admittedly, they descend from Scotland, but I mean, I've not done a fucking like a background check. For all I know, umpteen generations ago, the family in question descend from the land of the Viking, etc. But my point being, though, that I do have English family to some degree. I'm not anti-English. I will admit I'm anti-unionist, but that's nothing against anybody within the union. I know you're a unionist. I know Ragnar's a unionist. I've always been of the belief that England should be just as sovereign as Scotland should be in an ideal world, but we don't live in an ideal world. And this is the point that I continue to stress. I get accusations thrown at me all the time about being a Tory, about being a unionist, etc. I'm not. I really ain't, but I can't stand what's happening to Scotland because of the constant divisions surrounding revisionist selective history when it comes to quote unquote independence. It's not independence. And even if it was independence, I still wouldn't want it right now because the entirety of Europe, the entirety of the Anglosphere, the entirety of the UK, we're all facing the same issues. And I'm not entirely sure that, hypothetically speaking, independent Scotland, even if it was legitimate independence, would be able to survive on its own when all this shit's going on around us. Like, there's a time and a place for these conversations. And right now is surely not the time for that, you know?
I think this is me looking at between you and Billy from the outside. I think that Billy directs comments to you about the general people in Scotland, the SNP type people, and it comes across like he's
No, he's not. He's done this to me in so many streams.
Right,
He's done it to
yeah,
Scott Farmer as well. He called me a Scottish separatist and all this stuff like that. It's not. Don't get it wrong. I'm not coming on here to whine about
Yep.
Billy. I just wanted to actually state my actual belief.
Oh,
Like, I am a Scottish nationalist, legitimate Scottish nationalist. In terms of, I can't stand the monarchy, I can't stand the union, can't stand any of that shit. I want Scotland to be independent, but not right now. Like, that is my belief. But I ain't going to change. And I know that, like, there's a lot of people watching right now. They might not be the same way inclined. I know you're not, certainly. But this is the sort of thing that I'd like to see happen when I'm in my 60s or 70s and my grandkids are flourishing, if I ever have any. You know, like, not right now. Like, too many issues going on to be even talking about this. But it seems to be, obviously, the conversation with independence in Scotland right now is heating up a bit. But it's not the sort of independence that anybody should be talking about. You know, it's totally divisive nonsense. So I just wish it would stop, but it's not going to anytime soon. Like, but I know you're a unionist, so I'm not coming on here to like start shit. Like, you know?
no, mate, I'm quite happy that we have a bunch of people that have different opinions, and we can all get on and we can discuss them rationally.
Yeah.
You know, but from what I can see in Scotland, they're not wanting an independent Scotland. They're wanting a European. They're wanting to be separate from England, and they seem like they want to be separate from England, but in the European Union.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think that. I know that Northern Ireland would be fucked financially, not being part of the union. We don't produce what we would need to produce to sustain an economy.
Well, here's a question for you, right? Because I mean, as much as I'm diametrically opposed to near enough everything the SNP say, they always point to Northern Ireland to kind of bolster their argument for us becoming independent, quote unquote. And when they say independence in Scotland, this is something that I stress a lot in my videos, etc. When they say they mean the EU. It's simultaneous, which in and of itself contradicts everything they claim to stand for in terms of democracy. But they always point to Northern Ireland and say that you are the only part of the UK that has a sort of flourishing economy because you are still like in the single market, etc., etc. Is that the case, or are they talking shit?
I would love to know where that flourishing economy is.
Starting on the back.
I ain't seen it. I'll give you. Here's an example. I live in a working class area of East Belfast. There are two large roads that run through the area. 1 second, I just need to mute and cough.
I know, bother.
There are two large shopping roads that would. I know you have tenements and stuff, but East Belfast, we have lots of terrace houses that date back to the Industrial Revolution, and there's two large shopping roads. Whenever I was a kid, the shops on those roads, you could have bought anything from a thimble to the ship's anchor. You had all local businesses that were doing lots of trade out of there, and now you've got a couple of hairdressers, a shit ton of eating houses, your chippies, no big restaurants. Like it's all like chippies, bakeries, uh, stuff like that, and charity shops.
Yeah.
And I don't know how anywhere has a thriving economy based on that. Our shipyard that used to employ thousands currently employs 300 people. The aircraft factory that used to employ probably 10,000 employs, I would say, about 4. We don't export shit. The only things we export in any great quantities would be Baroque pottery and Tyrone crystal, which are both. Oh God, the craft work in those places. No, it is all British fish and chip shops and barbers that look like us around where I live. And no, we don't have shops selling halal food. We have a few Polish shops, but the Throne Crystal, the best of my knowledge, is still going strong. I know that Bleak Pottery is still going well because I done the tour of the factory last week when I was on my holidays. You know, this is not what a thriving economy looks like. And the other thing that I'm noticing is that whenever you go into Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, the stuff on the shelves, you could get. Don't get me wrong. If you go in, you're definitely going to be able to get coffee, tea, whatever. But the range of stuff that they have has dramatically shrunk. The range of breads have shrunk. The range of pretty much everything has shrunk because we can't get it across in the boat from fucking England.
Yeah.
With queues on the ferries that would go Belfast, Liverpool, Lawrence and Roar, and one to Holyhead that would bring all sorts of foods for the large supermarkets, because they have like warehouse distribution centres in England that everything goes through, and it is an absolute bollocks. And there is a border in the Irish Sea. The other thing is the writing on the walls pretty much everywhere you go about. You'll not go too far without seeing it spread on the wall around here. No EU, no Irish Sea border, and buy local, no EU. It's sort of that's what's went up on a lot of walls lately. So and no harm to Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP, but if she wants to start a civil war in this country, she's going the right way about it.
No, I totally agree with that. Like, I mean, I've always felt that the European Union have gone out of the way to use as they call it, the Irish question as a means to sort of sow division. It was one of the main, instigators and all the sort of, their excuse anyway, when it came to stalling, when it came to coming to some sort of agreement and whatnot moving forward. But especially in recent times as well, especially with the local elections, the ones that just passed, I don't know if it was this year, I can't even remember at this point, Sturgeon, I don't know, they really are just, they're taking a sort of dangerous approach, if you ask me. Like, it almost does appear, as you mentioned there, that they're trying their damnedest to, whether or not intentionally or not, like indirectly or directly, I kind of get the impression that if they're not careful, that's the sort of thing that they could be at least in part responsible for, is the sort of regeneration of civil war, as you said there.
Well, here's the other thing. We apparently, allegedly, are in about the 21st, 22nd year of a peace process. It's the strangest peace process you've ever heard of in your life. Have you ever heard of a peace process where one of the main parties running the government simultaneously have a armed paramilitary wing?
No.
but we have the IRA have not decommissioned. They have not dismantled. There's not. If anything, there are more paramilitary groups in Northern Ireland than. I don't exactly see South Africa as peaceful.
No,
see whenever you've got political leaders in a country saying we're not going to kill the white people, at least not for now. I don't think that's a peaceful situation.
No,
but we have got more paramilitary organizations that have more members now than we had 21, 22 years ago. So I don't see how that works as a peace process.
No, no, that's a complicated one. Like, it's not something I really know that much about, and it's kind of a subject that where you want to come at a bit of a pussy, so I don't like to step on people's toes in that respect. Like, but it's not really something I want to see blow up again, so to speak. Like, I don't mean any puns intended with that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Like, no, I just, that's what I was saying about Sturgeon and that. I just think they're kind of walking a very dangerous line there, like, but I mean, just before this goes any further, there was two comments that were said quite a while back. I'm looking at the comments of the StreamYard thing, 1:20 as well, just before you go on anymore. But one from Jerry, and he said, "Is there a realistic chance of Scotland getting independence if voting again?" And then Hasdak, who still hasn't changed his name and upsets me, please do. He wants an English, or she wants an English Parliament for the English, because I am not British. We'll start off with Jerry's quickly. I've said this before, but this is why I'm so anti-SNP, because, as I said at the start when I joined, in an ideal world, I would like independence for Scotland. And I would want it on the pretense that, like, everything else that's going on around us wasn't happening, such as climate change, quote unquote, or the migrant crisis, food shortage. None of this bollocks was happening. Like, things were the way that they used to be back in the day. But until we get to a point, if it ever happens, by the way, we won't be talking about independence. But I will just add as a caveat to that, the SNP's version of independence that they're talking about now, due to wet wipery in our parliament in terms of opposition, the revisionist history that's on display, and if you want to know what I mean by revisionist history, just watch my videos on it. I'm not going to fucking yammer on too much longer on it, but it's predicated on revisionist, unchallenged history. They've got a narrative that's been born out of lies, and if they get a referendum, the question is, will they? But if they do, I do firmly believe they'll win it. And if they do win it, they said in 2021 that in the event of winning that referendum, then there wouldn't be a secondary referendum, meaning, well, we get a chance then to decide whether or not we want to rejoin the European Union. It's classed as a double referendum. So I don't want it. I don't fucking want that referendum. And that's for Hasdak's comment that just below it. We want to have a parliament for the English, because that's kind of the same. Like, that's one of my arguments I always use when people are I come after me like, oh, the English is not. I firmly believe that the English deserve their own parliament. They deserve to be a sovereign people as well. Like, that's just my belief. They don't have a parliament. Westminster's not the English parliament. Like, I know that they represent England more than they represent the rest of the UK, but fundamentally, by and large, it's not their parliament. They're not a sovereign people. And look what the hell's happened to England. Out of every part of the UK, England has been hit the worst in terms of the demography problem. I ain't a parliament that represents its people. So, yeah, I am firmly of the same belief. Scottish nationalism gets a bad name because of the likes of the SNP. You know, a legitimate Scottish nationalist would be on the side of myself, and we are so far and few between, and it's kind of sad, really, in many respects. But sorry, I'll ramble for long enough now. I want to go.
Right. Here's a thought. Right. Fuck, I need to get a picture of fucking Lawrence Sullivan. So as every time I go, here's a thought.
Lauren Simonson.
Yeah. Well, I need to get a picture of her ready to throw up every time I want to say, here's a thought. Right. Do you think that the fact that the UK Parliament has, for so long, the English MPs in that Parliament have for a very, very long time had it drummed into them that they can't be English centric because it has to represent England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and then Northern Ireland, and they had to take that into account. Do you think that has an effect on how they do the rest of their business and why they seem to be so very worried about zealously advocating for their English voters?
Yeah, I mean that's what I think. That's where the argument kind of has been born from, where they talk. Well, some people talk about like, oh, the English deserve their own parliament and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, like, how many people do you hear about? How many politicians in England, like when it comes to like elections and whatnot, how many of them talk about England? They don't. Like, it's always the UK. Whereas in Scotland, it's either you're UK, you're a unionist, or you're SNP, right? In England, you don't get that. It's just like nobody opposes the concept of the union, and I'm not saying that coming from the position of I'm like anti-union. I am sort of like, as I said, in an ideal world, but it's like, how many of them actually speak for what's beneficial for England and English people? You don't hear it. It's always, all the time, unionism. And by and large, that isn't beneficial for England. It's that's so, yes, to your point, it's just constantly about the union as opposed to England. And that, like, that's an argument for English people that I think they should have if they want to roll with it, really, because I can understand their frustration. I really can. I mean, it must be really irritating to not have. I mean, I know that by and large, most governments, if not every government, is full of puppets anyway, for the most part. But that must really frustrate them that they don't have anybody that actually legitimately represents them. I mean, can you name any from in Westminster that specifically talk about England? You don't hear it. They don't. It's always the union, the union this, the union that. And I know for somebody who's a unionist, that's fine, but I'm trying to look at it from the perspective of, if you're English, it's like, well, I don't care about the union. What about my problems? You don't hear that. It's always about what's best for the union, you know?
I could, if I was a working class person from, I don't know, Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, anywhere but London, whatever, I'm listening to what the SNP saying, what Cymru are saying in Wales, what Sinn Féin are saying in Northern Ireland, I believe I would be saying, cut the fucking anchors off.
Oh, I agree.
This is just putting us down. And I do think that the other thing is, Northern Ireland has assembly, Scotland has an assembly, Wales has an assembly. Now, of those three, I would say the Stormont Assembly is the most dysfunctional, in that it's not a proper democracy. We have a system whereby we have to make a coalition between the largest unionist party and the largest nationalist party, and those two groups of people do not agree on fucking anything, and that's what's led to us holding the world record for the longest collapsed parliament in the world. even though we did have the two female leaders. You know, we were always told by the feminists if there was more female leaders, everything would be fine because we'd be able to agree and get on. But Arlene Foster and Michelle O'Neill currently hold the record for having the longest collapsed parliament in the world. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, it's been for a while. It's been pretty hectic over in your end of the neck of the woods, like.
Yeah, and oh fuck. And the other thing is, in much the same way that the SNP are not Scottish nationalists, Sinn Féin are not Irish nationalists.
No, without a doubt. Same with what they called Plaid Cymru or whatever the fuck. I can't say that name probably, but the same principle applies. Like,
yeah,
they're all the same. But I'll say this as well. This is what I'm saying about how maybe even out of anybody in Scotland, as few and far as between as we might very well be. I mean, I'm not even going to speak for the likes of Scots Armour and no chance. I kind of know Scots Armour's position more than I do Clive's, but still wouldn't speak for them. But I'm not entirely sure how many other people out there who share our beliefs, so to speak. But it's a very rare thing to hear. But I would be absolutely fine with Holyrood, Scottish Parliament, being disbanded tomorrow. I think it's the worst thing that's ever happened to this country. Not that I've been alive for that long. I mean, what was it? It was 2001 time that it was created, or its inception was around about that time frame. I would have been 5 years old or something, you know? Like, I can't really remember the time before it ever existed, but all I know is that the vast majority of our issues have really been accelerated since the inception of that parliament. So get it to fuck.